Greetings, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to episode number 4 of the Hometown Moguls podcast. My name is Ryan Yoder, and I am your host. In this episode, I got to interview my good buddy Joe Walker, who is the mad scientist, genius inventor behind the ManHammer. Not only does Joe share some background information on what it's like to go through the process of patenting an idea, he also shares a lot of great information for anyone looking to learn more about optimizing their online presence. And he's just an all-around awesome dude. So please sit back and enjoy.
All right. I think we're good. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. If you want to go ahead and just dive into introduction of yourself, kind of what you got going on, and what we brought you on here to talk about.
Yeah, man. First of all, like you set up, looks really cool, and happy to be on here. I was excited when you launched, man. It's cool to have your own thing. So I guess that's where I'll start with me is just what you've known of me is, out of college, I came up with my own piece of fitness equipment. It's basically a hammer that you can add weights to, and I ended up. Or actually, I'm saying that way too modestly. It's the world's first sledgehammer that you can load with regular weights.
There it is.
Anyway, it's called the ManHammer, and I was able to patent it out of college, which was something that I was interested in. I was hanging out with some really smart kids who were into business and talking to intellectual property. We were learning in class, and I had an interest to go down that path and like, how does that work? How do you patent something, And what it starts from is you got to have an idea that's novel, that when you search the records and the everything that's out there publicly hasn't been done. So obviously trying to then come up with an idea like that is a really weird kind of goal. But anyway, it hit me one day. I was been into working out since I was like 13, and the whole impetus for it was, I started in college, I started working out in like an MMA gym, and I was really into kind of the functional stuff. And I saw guys, hitting tires with sledgehammers. So I tried it one day. But after the first day, 8 pounds was boring. So I'm like, naturally I start adding weight up the neck. And like before long, I'm adding like, 75, 80 pounds of this guy's 8-pound sledgehammer. And like, it's getting really sketchy. It's to where like I'm going to end up breaking this guy's hammer or, causing an issue in the gym. So anyway, one night came up with the idea. I had the scraps around my house from a barbell and a sledgehammer head. And I have functional skill in welding, although while not pretty, I can do it functionally, and it held. So from there, man, was off to the races, figured out how to patent it. Got hooked up with a really cool patent attorney, and that whole process was really interesting. Real quick, kind of how it works is you have to define your invention from a ton of different angles, and it becomes a really in-depth document, way more than you could ever think for something as simple as like what I have. But you go through this process and you define it, and you define its uses and the claims that you're making. And then basically you submit this to the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And right off the bat, they're going to reject it. It's just part of the process, or at least that's how I understood it. And you kind of go in with a ton of claims. And then after they reject it, you kind of see what's out there, and you refine your patent and your presentation a little bit. And so they rejected it right off the bat. And the inventions that they cited, I was kind of at first like, damn, like, is this the end of the road, or, is this, I guess I don't have anything. And then I got away from it. When I came back to it, I'm like, oh no, I see the difference. This is, completely separate and whatever. So we were actually able to get it published on that second attempt, which was big. And then, so that kind of coincided with figuring out the marketing of a new idea. And so I graduated with a degree in marketing, and, learned in college. But I felt like the education was more on the big ideas and not like how to actually apply it. So like going back, if I could critique my college education. I wish they would have taught Google AdWords, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, how ads work in general, how organic rankings work in general. That stuff would have been so much more helpful than just, here's a SWOT analysis of, some big lofty ideas that you can't really apply. But anyway, I come out of college and I start kind of learning learning different parts of marketing. And in 2013 was able to launch online on Amazon, start selling. First hammer I ever sold was actually to Ronnie Coleman's trainer, which was super sick. And actually I didn't sell it for a profit. We traded, and I got a booth at the Ronnie Coleman Classic in Dallas, which was sick. Ronnie Coleman, even at whatever age he is, thickest human being I've ever seen in my life. Like he was like literally like 3 foot thick. So from then, man, it's just been, constantly learning, growing. I used what I learned in my own thing to get better jobs and jobs in the field and jobs in advertising. And I've been working my way up in that realm while continuing to fund my thing, continuing to sell my thing. And this week, I actually sent you a picture. I was getting some next batch of product ready to sell. And it's so cool to be at a point where I have processes in place for like, okay, we need hammers and, got to spray the logo on. And there's a way that I do it that looks good and a way that's efficient. And so, it takes so long to take something that's a new idea or your own thing from scratch and really get it anywhere significant. But like when you get there, nobody can ever take it from you. The amount of stuff you just learned is invaluable. And you just realize there's so much more to be done and more opportunity to come from it. And it's one of the things that I think when you have your own thing, like you do now with your podcast, I think if you always keep it in the mentality that it's only an opportunity and only a way to grow and never look at it as like a cost or a burden, you win off the bat. And yeah. So that was a long rambling answer, but yeah, that's what I got.
No, I like it. So a couple of key points I want to break down on and kind of focus on, because you hit a lot of interesting avenues there. And I feel like from the outside looking in, I don't have the experience yet of going through the process of creating a business, actual forming an LLC, whatever it is. But on top of that, even the people that do go that route and become entrepreneurs, I think you have a very interesting avenue that you took with, you actually invented something. So I want to kind of touch on that because I'm curious about, so when you go into that process, I mean, how far back do you have an idea of, like, when they're pulling these records of anything that's even relevant to your idea historically? I mean, are we going back to like patents like Benjamin Franklin, time frame?
Like my patent number, I think, is like 7,900,000, so there's a shit ton, but it's even beyond that. It's even if it's in public record, like if somebody had made, say, what I had and it was just out there, I wouldn't be able to patent it because it would be called public knowledge. And it's like, so like looking back, it's like, how the hell did nobody think of this before I thought of this? Like, how didn't somebody swing a hammer and say, no, the easiest way to add weight to this is like this. And here's how you know what I mean? So, but whatever, it's been cool. And it was like, it was just, they always say like invention is, what's the acronym? I don't know. It's always out of necessity, right? So
it's necessity is the mother of all
invention. Yeah. Thanks,
something like that.
Sorry, I've been thinking all day. I'm shot, but yeah, no. So it's like, it's just a natural, and I feel like even the idea, not to ramble too long again, but I feel like even the idea and how it's grown me, it's all been just necessity. And then you see as far as you can, you get to the end. And, you think it's a roadblock, but it's not. You just walk away. And then when you come back tomorrow, you'll be able to see further and you'll be able to kind of figure out what you need to do next.
So what kind of time frame are we talking about from you're swinging the hammer, and you kind of, this light bulb goes off of an idea to, when the patent's approved? What type of time frame there, like from beginning to end? Years, months? Like how far are we talking about?
No. So if my memory serves me correctly, I think I graduated in 2011, and I think I was using. I think I had the light bulb go off in my head around the fall of that year, so probably like September-ish. And then when I applied for the patent, well, first of all, I applied one time on like one of those legal websites, like trying to do it myself.
Yeah.
And that actually didn't count for anything. So when I actually really applied was I think 2013, and
Okay.
then when I finally was published in public record, it was 2017. So a decent amount of time in between.
Okay.
But
And how long does that cover you for? Say your patent, is that forever, or do you have to renew that so it stops it from becoming public knowledge?
no, it's a 20-year protection. So
Okay.
if you're the first one to do it, you get 20 years where you're exclusively can sell it and do your thing, and then after that, it becomes public knowledge. And so, real quick side note, that's why products like Coca-Cola, who have a secret formula, never patent it, because they never wanted to. When you patent it, you have to give all the knowledge in the document inside out, how it's built, how it's made, how it's used. So that's why, for example, that was a lesson we learned in school. That's why Coca-Cola never patented their formula, because they never wanted to give it up. And that way, so you notice, I think Pepsi might have, and that's why if you ever buy store brand soda, it'll taste like Pepsi and not Coke, because Coke still has a secret formula that nobody knows.
Well, hell, I just learned something new.
Just random bits of info.
That's pretty cool, man. So I'm curious, the name ManHammer. How many other names did you go through before you settled on ManHammer? Is there like an inside joke?
There's a great
developed
joke
around
with
that?
this. There's a great joke with this, and thank you. No one ever asked. They just half people either just love it and it's good, or half people just cringe and say, "Why the hell would you ever?" But anyway, so I grew up in construction, and we had this guy on the team. He was a foreman. This guy Roy, real wild son of a bitch. But we were a footing crew, and you would take. They use a vibrator to vibrate concrete to make it all level and to make everything settle. So we had this vibrator. There's the industrial setup with this backpack and this whole deal. Super powerful because it's moving concrete, and this thing was about yay fat. So he said, "Oh, baby, that's the ManHammer." And he was like, take that home to your old lady, and she'll dump you. So like when I come up with the actual deal, it just was like at the same time, like literally I had the idea early morning, I'm a super early riser. Had the idea at like 3 a.m. I walk next door, I weld it together, have my first prototype, and then the name hits me all within like, and then once it was like, I don't know how much like creative writing you've ever done, but I noticed like if you write a bunch of stuff and something stands out so prominent, I don't know, I feel like you got to run on it, because it's just there's something there. And I know from having used it, like I said, even though half the people cringe and like, why, what the hell are you talking about? I know there's certain people who have never forgot it just because of the name. So it's like,
No, I mean, you use it. You gave me probably 7 or 8 T-shirts a while back, and my wife makes fun of me because either I'm wearing the Goonies shirt I'm wearing right now,
yeah.
a Jurassic Park shirt, or a ManHammer shirt. Like 99% of the time, what I'm wearing is just one of your black ManHammer shirts, and I get the oddest looks. People are like, "What the hell is the ManHammer?"
No, it's
And I'm like, but then
best.
it matches like the whole, I guess the attitude of it, and
Yeah, it is.
so
The attitude is like man up, It's like there's so much pussification, and like, society definitely went super soft. And I'm not saying, it is like to each their own, all good, but like we grew up in construction. There's a certain toughness about you that's like, yeah, you don't want to go to work. Well, guess what? Man up and go to work. Like there's certain disciplines you still got to just, oh, it's cold out. Great. Go to work. Like there's not,
now that background in construction and seeing your family, have something tangible that they created as a business, was that kind of in your head from a young age that I want to do this, I want to be my own boss, or like, is that something you've always had?
Yeah, I think I definitely look up to my grandfather tremendously. The guy that took the risk of, had a steady job, and then I'm going to go do this on my own. And I mean, if you hear the stories, it's like, yeah, it wasn't easy at all. It's, it'll put you all the way against the wall to where, you know, you think you're done, it's over. Oh, I didn't figure it out. And then all of a sudden it clicks. And he's got this plaque on his wall that says, it's a guy digging out of a cave, and there's a little bit of wall left between the outside. And it says something to the effect of like, you never know how close you are, because it's like when you're digging that rock and that guy's digging that rock out of the cave, he doesn't know if it's 6 more inches or 10 more feet, or, you know what I mean? So it's like, I always had, obviously, I looked up to my grandfather tremendously of what he built, and then being a part of it, and obviously very close to my family, respect the shit out of my own dad, like tremendously, and got to learn from him. That guy is like phenomenal leader. I mean, straight up. And it was cool because I feel like he let us in and showed us enough. And when I say we, I mean me and my brother, but we always were in the conversations and talking about it. And like, and then you realize at some point, when I was in kind of key positions, or at least positions of responsibility, you realize it's not rocket science. It's just, you have to be responsible and take accountability for whether it's your job or your, the job you're running, or the little piece that you have to hold. It's just making processes and make things that work day in and day out. And it's fixing the problems as you go. So I definitely had that rare opportunity, and I'm super thankful that I didn't rush out of college and get a corporate job and kind of do what I'm doing now. I'm glad I hopped in the business, learned it, kind of saw it from the inside, because all it ever made me realize, and I know I've been super fortunate to have the opportunity, but it's all doable. It's all doable if you're willing to put the work in, and if you're willing to learn and continue to learn. And yeah, there's a ton of unknowns, and yeah, it's hard as shit at times and whatever, but everything's hard. Working for somebody else is hard. So, choose your heart, I guess.
Sure. Now, what you're looking down the pipeline, the path that when you started with the ManHammer to where you are now, to where you see it going in the future, I mean, is the ultimate goal to have that replace as your full-time job? Do you like the way it is now, where it's just kind of a passion project? Like, how's that changed, and where do you see it going from here?
So I think what I realized is I like doing what I did with it, in that creating something new. I like product launches. I like advertising products. I think I like product marketing in general. So I don't ever want to be married to it. I know it has tremendous benefit, and I know that it's something that I will continue to grow. And I'm happy that I figured it out to where it's at now, because it is a solution for a lot of people right now. So that's really cool. But I don't ever want it to be my sole deal, because I feel like that makes you maybe bias, or maybe takes away from some of the edge, that if it's just one of the things you do, I feel like I can do better with it. At least that's how I think about it. And I want to continue creating things and ideas, and putting them out there and trying things. So I definitely, I don't want it to be my only thing. And so the path forward for me is to continue with what I'm doing, is just, continue selling online and continue to get better at that. And as far as learning those skills, I'm learning in a bunch of different avenues as well. So anytime I take a job, or I get a new opportunity with somebody else's product, I always try and take what I learn and then reapply it back. And so that's the path I'm on with it.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, the development stage of, you said you welded the first one. Where are you at now? Like, how involved are you in the creation of the actual ManHammers? Has it been like the same person making it for you the whole time now?
Yeah. I approached a guy early on, and he's been awesome. And he makes them. I basically order the materials, get it to his shop, and then he welds them together. And his shop's phenomenal. Those guys are great. But let me tell you, that's what I've learned in. So I've been at it a long time. I guess it's about a decade at this point. But in the beginning, you think, oh, I don't have budget, and I don't have this, and I don't have that, so I got to do everything myself. But what you learn is get the budget to get somebody else to do it, because that is scalable to where you can lean on that guy and say, hey, I need X amount. And he can say, okay, it'll take you 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever. Whereas if I'm doing them one by one, then I can't do all my other stuff that makes it go. And the same goes for, last year, the big initiative was getting that promo video shot. And I mean, you've seen my, cringy stuff, and for years of doing my own videos. I don't want to put myself down, but I realized if you spend the money for quality people, the results, they'll show you in the numbers. I mean, it'll do way better than if you always are trying to do everything yourself. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you want to do yourself, but in terms of like the key critical stuff, man, it's like hire people that are just good at it,
Yeah. Now, as far as like an expense for like that, for say shooting a video, or, you hear people say starting a small business that there's benefits that you can write things off under the business as business expenses. Do you dive that deep into letting ManHammer pay its own way for things? Do you fund it personally? Like, how do you do that on like an accounting side? Just curious.
Yeah, no. So I'm a sole proprietor, so there's not a ton of complexity there. It's pretty simple. It's all tied to, my income's all part of the equation. And so, yeah, I try to keep it as simple as I can, obviously keep track of everything you spend on it, and, write off what's fair and legal and the whole deal. But yeah, so that's honestly, I keep it as simple as possible.
Gotcha. So you're not trying to milk it to pay for every little dime that you can possibly squeeze out of it.
No, because I mean, there's definitive rules, and you got to be up on them. So it's like as long as you're playing with inside the rules, it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously do everything that makes sense and is fair. But I don't ever want to be somebody that gets caught up in some bullshit.
No, absolutely. Now, the one thing that always cracks me up that I always get a kick out of, and you even kind of touched in on it, just in this conversation, that you're kind of like the muscle Buddha. Like you have this underlying layer of like, you always have these nuggets of knowledge and information, or like this path of self-growth. And, like we'll message back and forth, and then you'll just drop some like really like almost like deep thing. I'm like, damn, I didn't expect that. like what do you account for? Like, have you always been like that cerebral in like your thought processes? Do you actively, like you said, do creative writing and like read, or like pursue like some sort of growth? Like how does that work?
Man, I like all over in this room is just, I got pads and I write constantly. Like when I get up first thing, it's just like write as far as I can see and think. And I don't know, man, I recognized back in college that writing things out, and not like writing in like a final piece, but I mean just jotting stuff down and organizing things and whatever, that's like the way that I think. And so I think when like if I'm drawing it to your specific example, like a tiny little nugget, it's because I probably literally flipped the page and just wrote that and then flipped the next page. Like I don't know, I think very simply in that kind of way of one idea per page.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, and have you kind of leaned on some of the experiences and the knowledge of, your dad and your grandfather and stuff to pursue like the logistics of starting the business and everything? Or is it something that you kind of read up on your own and kind of, like you said, just kept it simple, doing it online? Do you have like a CPA that helped you get it off the ground? Like how'd you get everything going?
Nah, like as far as the LLC and all, I use like LegalZoom, and as far as figuring out what you need, yeah, just read online. Just like I feel like any other thing that I don't know, you just you YouTube it, you Google it, and then you find enough people that have done it a bunch of times. I didn't try and burden my dad or my family. I probably shouldn't say it that way, but I didn't ask them when I was trying to figure it out, because I knew I was on my own path and they were super busy with what they had going on. So it's like, not that they wouldn't have or whatever, but it's funny as far as the actual formation and all. Yeah, I never even went down that angle to ask them. But I also always felt like they had a very set ways that they knew, because they had something that was the size it was and operating the way it was. So I knew I was doing something on a completely different tangent that I didn't want to. I don't know. Have you ever talked to your dad and you feel like he's just like, like he's heard you since a little kid being excited about shit. That's how I feel like at times you gotta just realize you lost him and like it's all good, you know?
Yeah, it all just kind of flows together and it's
Yeah,
just
daddy, you know. I mean, you know how it is. You got little kids.
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. One of the things I also wanted to kind of touch on is obviously you have an actual degree background in it. You do it on a daily basis, like you said, with marketing and online, all the optimization of that kind of stuff. If you could boil that down and some sort of like key points of things you need to focus on let's use this as an example. This is a complete test run for me of trying to figure out how to promote this podcast on the different platforms to get it to show up on Google and different like what things should I focus on, or anyone that's trying to develop something online to get it in front of people easily.
I don't know about anybody who's like, I don't want to go that broad with it, but let's use you as an example and let me just spitball here for a second. So like the first thing I would do, it depends on obviously if you have a little bit of money to throw behind it. And it's not that, well, let me just say it first. The first thing I would do is build out, and I can do it for you. Happy to do it for you. Build out a Google AdWords campaign for your own branded stuff. So what that means is any keywords with the name Hometown Mogul podcast, et cetera, we can make up a keyword list, build out a keyword campaign for that, build out a Google AdWords campaign for that, drive everything to whatever you want the most views or whatever you're trying to build right now. So if you have it on YouTube, that's an easy integration because Google Ads and YouTube is all the same. And you can even run specific podcasts as ads if you wanted. So we can talk about that later. But what I would do for you, build out a branded campaign first for search. And that way, anybody who you talk to and you go and you meet new people, if they are like, oh man, what was that called and whatever, and they get half of it right, your stuff shows up. And it would be a paid position. But if you think about it, because calling it for what it is and having been there myself and still there in a lot of ways, you're in obscurity. So it's not like you're going to spend a massive budget every month to do this. You're going to pay per click that anybody clicks on it. And the clicks are going to be super cheap because they're super relevant to the ads that you're serving, not to get too deep into the whole weeds of it. But you're going to be paying like 70 cents a click. So it makes sense in terms of just making sure you have ads there first. And then additionally, you basically want to get ranked for your own terms. So if you also want to show up or, organically as well. So if you are consistent with the YouTube videos that you put out and every episode, if you name it the same thing and you put whether it's your name in there and then the episode, I haven't seen how you've done it yet, but get that consistent. Like for example, if you notice, I always put out sledgehammer workout on my stuff because I'm going to own that fucking space. And it's everybody who's ever going to search that's going to find my stuff because I'm the most consistently posting in that tiny little niche. So that's a little bit higher. You're familiar with sales, so it's a funnel. And at the bottom of the funnel is people searching for your name because they know exactly who you are. They know what they want. You just want to make sure that you have ads there to show up when they search your name. And that way it drives to the stuff you want and you can get them right to where they can find your episodes super easy. And then beyond that, if you want to test a little extra money and figure out kind of your positioning or targeting, then you either use Facebook ads if you want to try and run and target people based on other brands they like, or you use Google ads if you want to. Google ads might be tough, but you could use YouTube ads and kind of put your stuff on similar things, or, we could come up with a strategy in that kind of standpoint. That would be spending a little bit more money, and that would be testing to try and bring new people in if you wanted to go from a paid persona. But to back up to your original thing, the key part is that branded search. So anybody searching for you, you show up for. And so that way it'll help get your own name ranked as well. If you run ads on it, people click it and they actually stay engaged with your content. And then also keeping that naming convention consistent where you constantly put, and same thing when I got, you can do it with tags as well, to where you just consistent on the keywords that you're trying to rank for. Over time, it will. But a quick note on that, and that would be called like SEO, if you're familiar with search engine optimization. That stuff is like a long-term play. So it takes months to get ranked and consistency to get ranked. But the cool part is once you are, then you're not paying for ads to sit in that top spot. So ads are your short-term deal and your way to test messaging and kind of figure out against certain audiences what works and what doesn't. And then the organic stuff, the consistent stuff that you constantly put out, that's what's going to build you your long-term value in your brand. But it also takes a long time to get kind of ranked for it.
Gotcha. One of the things I had made a note of that I wanted to kind of go back on that I'm curious on of, your original starting online making sales, obviously it's just you directly to consumer. Have you started getting to the point where you have, say, like on a commercial side, like someone reaching out and buying multiple from you at that level? Or is it still kind of like one-to-one, like one person will just buy one hammer at a time?
So I would say most of it is still online sales, and it started out on Amazon. I did get it into Elite FTS, which was super cool, just from being a fan standpoint. And I've gotten decent sales out of there from time to time. And then it morphed into a Shopify store. And the reason is because, and this is the stuff I didn't know in the beginning and was trying to figure out, but you want your own website so that you can put your tracking codes into it. And that way you have all the data of people who visit. And that way you can run Google ads to it and know what the people did once they were on your site and if they bought and whatnot. You can't do that with an Amazon store because Amazon's not going to let you into their back end. So real quick lesson on that. If you are ever thinking about selling things, just from the jump, just make a website and then it works in the same kind of way. But to follow up, there was a stretch of last year when COVID hit that I started reaching out to collegiate teams to get them to buy in more than one. And that's been getting pretty good traction, but I haven't brought anybody on board to just take that and run with that. It was something that I was testing and was seeing success with, but then obviously I'm only me. So I've always liked the direct to consumer online sales because of that, because I can set that stuff up on the weekends. My ads can run, I can make money while also going and working and,
What's the craziest place you've shipped a ManHammer? Have you sent one to Timbuktu or anything international, anything crazy, or is it all pretty domestic?
I had a guy from Egypt inquire this morning, but because of my patent, I've wanted to keep everything in the U.S. and that way, it's covered and whatever. I know obviously if I did have massive success with it, it'll get copied and your patent will be what it is. But so my strategy from the jump has just been focused on US, and there's still so much for me to learn before I'm ever international is cool and all, but that opens up a whole nother can of worms and shit that I'd have to learn.
That's interesting. So and I guess that when you mentioned going to the U.S. patent office, that didn't even click. So is there a way to internationally patent something just across the board universally, or? Yeah,
but then it's another blank amount of money. And, at the time I'm like, let me figure this out first. And obviously, cause I've funded everything myself, you gotta be smart about it. Can't overextend yourself. And then the other part is, even with an international patent, you get some countries like China, for example, they don't care. They're going to, what are you going to do? You're going to come fight a court case over here? Whatever. So if I get it to the point that I see that I think's possible, yeah, it'll get copied, but hopefully at that point you've made what you can make out of it. And it's all good.
Sure. So in all your search engine optimization and just peeking around and you getting in all the different niche markets of the internet, have you stumbled across anything where you're like, damn, that's pretty close to what I have set up here? Or is it that unique and original of an idea that you're pretty confident and proud that you haven't seen anything even close to what you have to offer?
Well, no, I mean, I think the one that gets, when I start running Facebook ads, I'll get this comment on there from guys who lift like us, and they'll be like, well, what about the shoulder rock? And I'm like, okay. Because I think I ran the headline of the world's first sledgehammer that you can load with regular weights or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, what about the shoulder rock? And it's like, okay, well, first of all, I mean, I know for sure I was before just because of the patent search, the whole deal. B, yeah, it's very similar and it's simple and whatever, but it's not like I would ever go to that guy and be like, hey, don't sell that because of my pet. I mean, that guy's a fucking I love that guy. I have no, you know, that guy's cool as shit. So, but as far, you know, it's funny, man. With that honestly, I have fun with this. If that's the fun part about running Facebook ads versus Google ads, Facebook ads, you get to see comments, and some of the hate is it coming from a place that it's like, I know it's not personal, and I really wouldn't care anyway. You know me. I'd tell them to go fuck themselves, you know, whatever. But it's like when you see it, you're just like, why? You know?
Yeah. Start clicking and peeking around at their profile picture, like, yeah, I could take them.
It's just
or
like
they don't even look like they've picked up a weight in their life.
I'll give you an example. I posted a video in like Starting Strongman or something, like the group. Everybody's cool, wants to know about it, the whole deal. And all right, cool. A lot of love, a lot of good comments. And then like the last comment, and it trickles in like 4 days later, it's like, that's a waste of time. And you're like, okay, thanks.
So with your video promo and everything, did you see like a significant uptick once you brought into like the mix of professional crew and like the whole commercial? I mean, did that boost your sales at all, or like your views? Did you see something trackable on that front?
So it's not like it's something that, oh, I put out this video, it's not like I uploaded this video and all of a sudden, oh my God, I blew up. No, it's not how it works either. And I want to say that to you too, because I know you're building your thing. It's the value in it is when you run ads, they're effective, they sell versus and don't get me wrong, user generated content, stuff that I shoot myself sells as well. But I'm saying in running that, in trying to run an intro video and a promo video by getting those quality team. And by the way, they were awesome. The guy's name is Jet Phoenix out of Wilmington. He's a freaking artist, but you just see it in the metrics. You see the click-through rates are up. This, you know, the whole engagement's up, and it gets way more traction than if you did something poorly yourself. And you know, when you're talking about ads and you're talking about Facebook ads and things like that, it's all about the creative and then the messaging that you put to it. And if you can tie those two together and target that to the right people, the great creative is so important. That it's not even in the same. It's not even the same game with, you know, me. Like if I, for example, if I were trying to edit together an intro video, like it just wouldn't have did anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously they're professionals for a reason, but I mean, we've shot GoPro videos together, and I've seen
which did nothing. No,
yeah, but I mean, like it's still like you can tell the difference. But you know, like when I go through your YouTube videos and stuff, just when I followed you when I started my whole thing, it's like, I mean, you just from trying to track my own numbers, and obviously I just started, but you know, you're still like some of your videos are in the several thousand plus. I mean, like in
not many though, you know, but
I mean,
listen, the thing you got to remember about marketing is keep your KPI, keep your key performance indicator in your head. Mind sales, the other stuff you do it. And like what I found by, like, you see the stuff I've been putting out on YouTube is literally just a quick cut of the sledgehammer set that I liked of that workout. It's not the whole workout. It's not all I do, because I always get that question. But that's how I started ranking for my own stuff, was when it was actually Mitch that challenged me to it. And it was like 2 years ago. He's like, just do it consistently. And so I started to, and what I saw at the end of the year was, oh, now I actually show up for all my own stuff, to where it's the organic stuff finally kind of caught wind and knows that when somebody searches ManHammer terms, all my stuff's going to be there, like in Google. So that was like the major benefit there. And like I said, the other part is constantly, either calling it a steel mace workout or a sledgehammer workout. I'm doing that deliberately because I know that I'll own that space at some point, even if it takes longer. But when that larger trend catches on, I'll be the expert in the field or whatever. So,
and obviously I'm going to take you up on your offer and pick your brain, further down the road to help get this thing developed and figure out things I can change. Like you've already mentioned, throwing the name into every title, which I know for a fact I need to go back and change, make sure Hometown Moguls is in the title for everything.
Yeah, Hometown Moguls, and then the pipe, you know what that is, the straight up and down piece, and then episode whatever, and that way it'll all rank really nicely for you. Whereas if you just put like episode 2, it won't do any positive for you.
And so on the side of like, obviously relying on your knowledge and your experience, for myself or anybody else that's out there, are there books or resources that you know of, or things that are reliable to kind of jumpstart, get a basic knowledge of things they can do on their own, or something I can read up on? Or
I know everybody wants the simple answer. I mean, your resource is me for sure, and I'm down to help you anytime you want, or just have the discussion. I mean, I could build it for you and I could walk you through it. In terms of like books overall, nothing that'll give you a baseline, but this book here, Tested Advertising Methods, is solid. And so if you just want to learn about how to take messaging and ways that have always worked since like the 1910s of getting people to do the things you're trying to get them to do, really cool read. It teach you about headlines and grabbing attention, and more about writing than anything. But then in terms of the digital stuff, for me, I think it was such an advantage to teach myself or try to learn Google Ads first, because A, it's free to set up, so you can literally start right now. B, you're only getting paid when people click. And so you can really keep your budgets like micro to kind of learn it. And then once you understand how the platform works, how the metrics interact with each other, and how to improve them, that stuff carries over to every other platform like Facebook, Twitter, any other thing that runs ads. It's all pretty much the same. And I feel like because Google's maybe it's just my opinion, but I feel like because Google's the standard, I feel like everybody copies kind of the platform. So, but again, that's me. Your question was, is there anything to read to get a baseline? And I guess it all depends on, my mind always goes paid ads, but I know that a lot of people would rather kind of learn the organic side. So I think then really you would just want to focus in on like SEO and organic rankings. So anything,
Gotcha.
Honestly, anything on YouTube anything I don't know, I always just YouTube it. And I feel like there's a zillion people that are from advertising agencies that'll show you how to do things. And I don't know, there's no better way to learn than screen by screen, somebody walking you through it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. You get asked the most random questions throughout the day, and you just look at people. Some of the questions they ask are like, do you not have the internet in your pocket? Like, could you not Google that or YouTubed it? So, all right. So on this platform, obviously your expanse into the internet world is bigger than what I have to offer right now. But what would you like to put out there? What can I promote to anything specific other than just the general ManHammer YouTube and your pages and stuff? Anything special?
I would say manhammerco.com, but I mean, other than that, man, like you said, I constantly put out my stuff on YouTube, but I don't really care about I mean, whatever. If people want to say it, cool, it's there. If not, but yeah, man, just happy to be on, and anything you need help with, don't hesitate. I'm down to build it for you too, and just I'll give you all the time you need, because I feel like the conversation would be worth it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, any excuse I can think of to come over and hang out in the massive garage gym you got and throw some weights around, I'll definitely hit you up on that. So I appreciate the offer, and we'll definitely be chatting about that afterwards. And it's I kind of expected going into it, but I'll have to put a little like snippet at the beginning of like explicit or as far as like that. No, it's it's not a problem at all. It's just funny. Talking to Britt before coming into this, I was like, I have a feeling like Joe's gonna have some flavorable language, ties into the construction.
This
background
is the way I talk.
Exactly. Cool, man. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead end on the recording here. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.